schedule. All right. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be doing the chocolate fudge coconut dream bars. And it's truly over-the-top dessert. And I also call it the adult brownie. It's bittersweet chocolate, and it has all the things kids don't like. It's not that type of adult brownie. So today my assistant is Drew Louie, who graduated from here in '06 and was a classmate of mine when I took the advanced classes. So thank you, Drew. All right, so in your books you should have the recipe, correct? We all have books? It's all, okay. It's staying the same. Books can be purchased in the marketplace or registration. And I don't think there's any in the back of the room right now. So for those of you who don't have it, I will read as I go along in taking care of it. This recipe comes in 3 parts. We have a bottom layer, top layer, and there's a ganache that we're going to make, which is all the ganache is a chocolate sauce that you could use for cakes, pies, eat it with a spoon. It's just all good. All right, so first we're going to start with the ganache, which you need a blender to do that. And you have 2 1/4 cups of maple syrup. This makes a big, large amount, so don't be scared. And I just want to preface this by saying it is what it is. It is what it says in the brochure. This is an over-the-top dessert. This is not low-cal. It's not low-fat. It's not low-fat. Okay. The next starts with 1 cup of coconut oil. And again, it is over the top. So that all goes in your Vitamix. Hang on to that for a minute. And you also have 2 1/2 cups of cocoa powder. So, yes, this is raw cocoa powder, which I'm only going to put half in because I don't want to overwork the blender. All right. So this is going to be loud for a little bit because I really have to plunge it to get it all moving. And you always want to start with the liquid in the bottom first and your solid to try and not burn out your blender. Okay. Just want to incorporate some of it and then the rest. I'm going to go for this. So what you're after is a nice, smooth chocolate sauce. So I'm going to give it to my trusted colleague here. Ask Chris to finish blending that out till it's smooth. And they'll smooth it out for a lack of time. Okay, so you want to make that first part, which is called your ganache, and set it aside. And then we're going to start with your bottom layer. So the bottom layer, again, for those of you who do not have your booklets, starts with 4 cups of walnuts. I'm going to read this for you so you could get it down. And then she needs to bring it back. Okay. 4 cups of walnuts, 4 cups of pecans, 3.5 cups of the ganache that we just made, 1 cup of raisins, 1 cup of shredded coconut, and 1/2 cup of, it says maple syrup powder, which is just maple syrup that has been dehydrated. You want to use it in its dry form versus the wet form because we're making a dough. Okay? So your food processors at home probably will not blend all 4 cups at once. So I highly suggest you just do half of it so it doesn't, you know, go too full in your Cuisinart. So I'm going to do half and half, and with salt in the meantime. Also, salt is a great equalizer in the kitchen. I will take questions at the end, so if you could just hold that thought. And it balances. Salt also balances, so you need it. What you're looking for is just like a fine meal with the nuts, because this is kind of your flour. You want it to be coarse, but not so coarse. About that texture is what you're looking for. You don't want to overwork the nuts because that will just, you know, break it down and bring the oils out, and you'll have nut butter. Measure out 3.5 cups for me. Yeah. So you continue blending till they're all used up. And the reason I'm, again, doing it in 2 parts is because the bowl of the food processor cannot accommodate all those nuts at once. So you don't want to make, and just a little pinch of salt with it. Okay. You can rock your food processor back and forth to just kind of help you get your nuts broken down in a timely manner to not give you oily nuts. Because what you want, again, is flour. You don't want it to be too oily. So it's somewhat chunky, but you don't want too much oil in there. Okay. All right, so that will be your the nut part of the bottom layer is what we're working on. All right, I'm going to put gloves on because this gets really sticky and my hands are going to get into it. All right, so now that you've done that and you're following through here, you transfer your nuts to a mixing bowl, and you're going to add your raisins. And again, you could use whatever you choose. You know, you could use berries instead. Whatever dried fruit you like could go in it. And your coconut. And again, your dehydrated maple syrup. And you're going to combine these just so you have a flour. Can you guys see on the monitor? Okay. See if I got it all in there. And the salt's already in. I just need all day. You just want to get a really nice mix adding to that. Okay. So 3.5 cups. All right, it looks more like 4, but I'll let you get away with it. All right, so then you add your ganache. And then what's left of the ganache you're going to put aside because you're going to need it for topping. Don't take it too far, though, because I might need it. All right, and this is kind of fun where you get in touch with your food here. So is it looking like fun on the monitor, or is it looking like a mess? A good mess. All right, so have you guys been having fun? We're at the end here of our expo. Okay, so this is the dough, and I suggest you work it with your hands because it does get tight, and you really can't do it with a spatula really well. So just work through it, and it is fun. So make sure you get all the chocolate, or the chocolate ganache that's in your bowl. Need my parchment right there. Okay. Put it right here for me. Yeah. Oh, is that chocolate you stuck it with? Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so now you're going to put it on your parchment lined sheet, the dough. And you want to use parchment on the bottom because it just makes it easier to come up. We're using these white trays, but I prefer the ones we have in the kitchen. But because this is a smaller batch for demo, I'm not doing that. You guys could use your cookie sheets that you're not using anymore to bake cookies in your ovens, and that will work fine. So. How am I doing on time? Pretty good there. All right, so what you want to do is just make a nice flat bottom here for your cookie. Okay, see, you've made brownies before, right? You make cooked brownies. The heat will just kind of spread it around for you. Here, because you're not doing that, you kind of have to work it yourself. So what I do is just press it into all sides, and then you get a nice flat surface. So I'm going to pass this to my trusted assistant who's going to work this out for me. You could take it in the back and work it with, just so it's nice and smooth on the bottom. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So that's bottom layer, okay? And if you have questions, just hold on to them for a little bit because I see the hands are going up. But I have a time restriction that I have to get through. So now we're going to work on the top layer. And for those of you who do not have your book, I will read you the ingredients, and you can write it down. And see, people in back, I need another canister for the Vitamix, please. Drew or Chris, another vessel for the Vitamix, thanks. 2 cups of coconut meat. Now, these are Thai young coconuts. Everybody's familiar with these. Show hands if you're not. Okay, good, we are. Thank you. That's magic. Don't you wish you had that at home? Yes, may I have, please? Okay, so we're all familiar with these, and if you watched the last demo, she showed you how to break them down, and you know how to do all of that. Are we on the same page? All right. You want to get like the meat that's a little bit thinner, not as thick, but if you have some that's thick, that's okay too, because you don't get to pick what comes in. It's not like going and picking something out of a can or in the supermarket, right? It is what it is, and it is what you get. So I suggest you harvest a whole case of coconuts, separate the water from the meat, and portion it out and put the thicknesses that you have in different bags and save them. And then when you need noodles, you want the thicker one, and you'll pull that out. And if you want to make sauce or soups, use the thinner piece. So today we want to employ it for sauce. So we're going to use a combination of thick and thin meat. All right. We're lucky here at school because we open lots and lots of coconut, and I see some of my students in the audience, and they can tell you they've opened lots of coconuts. So let's give you the ingredients for the top layer. So you have 2 cups of coconut meat, a 1/4 cup of agave, I'll take that, 2 tablespoons vanilla. So here's what it looks like, your brownie bottom. Thank you, Drew. 2 tablespoons vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of coconut oil, and it needs to be in its melted form, and 4 cups of dry shredded coconut, which you're going to separate in 2 cups and 2 cups because you're going to put in 1/2 of it. And I suggest you do that because what happens is when you're making this, you forget and you dump the whole thing in, and then you think, oh my gosh, it's all in there, and it's kind of hard to pick it back out. So separate it, make yourself a note to when you set up your mise en place, which is getting all your ingredients out first, that you split the coconut into 2 sections. And then the 1/2 cup of ganache that you made already that you have saved, right? Okay. Did we get that? For those of you who don't have the recipe. All right. So again, we're going to put it all. We're going to put in, just let me make sure I tell you this right. In the blender, we're going to blend the coconut meat, the agave. So let's put in the coconut meat. We're going to put in our agave. Okay. Vanilla. And the salt. I always have to check to make sure the salt is the right amount because it's pre-measured. And I think it's not, so I'm going to hold back a little bit. And you want to blend that in your, I also need another plunger for the Vitamix, a clean one. A clean one would be good. And you just want to get that smooth. Okay, so while the blender, that's nice and smooth, you have it to a smooth consistency. Thank you. You can see where there's no chunks of coconut going on there. It's fairly smooth. You're going to keep this running, this chocolate. Okay. Chuck on it. While it's running, you're going to add your coconut oil. Okay, we should be good. So you want, what you're looking for is a nice, smooth, creamy Can you guys see that from where you are? Okay. So see, it's like a creamy consistency, but it's still liquid, so it pours. You don't want it to be thick like sour cream, so, you know, look for that happy balance. And you have a gauge on your Vitamix where if it starts getting too warm, you know you're done, because you don't want it to get overheated. Okay. All right, so you pour it in a bowl, and then you're going to add 2 cups of your shredded coconut, all of it, but remember it's now in 2 parts. And you're just going to work that in. So this is going to be your top. So you need to like coconut to really like this dessert. You need to like chocolate, so you really like this dessert. And you really need to like sweet, so you like this dessert. Like it says, for those of you who walked in late, I'm just going to reiterate, it is not low-cal, it is over the top. All the lectures you've been to this weekend has told you, you know, you need to eat your greens. I would suggest you do that first before you indulge in this dessert. I don't suggest you eat too much of it. And everything else you've heard is all good. But when you get to me, I am like the celebratory one who gives you a little sweet to keep you on your journey and your path. Without a little bit of, you know, some decadence going on in your life, life would be boring, right? So you need a little bit of it going on. So don't feel guilty when you walk out of here with that little nibble in your hand. Eat it, enjoy it, bless it, and have a party in your mouth. Feel good about it, because it's not cooking, it's all good ingredients. Okay? So for those of you who are going to put your hands up and say, but can you make this low-cal, or can you make this in a way that it doesn't have the agave? And all I'm going to say to you is, yeah, by all means, ask me that question, and I will try to answer it the best I can, but I'm going to tell you now that this is over the top, and that it is not low-cal, and you need to eat your greens first, okay? So, but it is a fun dessert, and if you have children at home, even though I call it an adult brownie because it's made with a bittersweet chocolate, and you know, kids usually like chocolate that has milk, that the adult's palate usually likes, you know, a little bit more sophisticated chocolate taste, they would like it too. And it's a little piece of heaven. So that's your topping for your creamy top, okay? And I gave you that recipe. So spread it as, you know, best you can. And I'm doing good on time. Okay. So we're just going to smooth it out here. I'll give you that. And then you're going to take the remaining coconut you have, and you can, you know, like I tell everybody, recipes are only guidelines. You can choose to add more coconut or not if you don't, or switch it out to whatever it is. Just sprinkle on enough to just kind of top it. This is going to act as a little barrier between your other top of chocolate layer. It's like, oh my God, she's going to add more chocolate to that? Yes, I am. And you'll be happy about it. Okay, so if you have time, it would be nice to have the bottom set up for you, but because we don't have time here, it's good, and you don't have to do that. And then you're going to take the chocolate, and you're going to just drizzle it on in a way that, you know, works best for you, or whatever it is. Just randomly, It's your artwork. Do with it whatever you like. It's just fun to play with it and drizzle along the way. Okay? About yay much will do. All right. I think we're there. And then you can take some more coconut and just take it over the top. Drizzle on some more so it sticks. It looks good. This now has to set up, I would say, a good 4 hours before it will cut nicely for you. So I will give this to Andrew, who will take it in back, pop it in the refrigerator. It will set up, and you guys have to stay here till it's, done. So that's 4 hours. So we could sit and talk for 4 hours while it sets up. No, you have better things to do. Go find lectures. So it's done for you. And people in back, if you could bring out the samples at your convenience. These nice people would like to see what this tastes like. All right, so while they're doing that, I will take questions. Yes?
I have a couple easy ones. Is it a 14-cup process?
The ones we have here at school, I think, are 12, but you can buy ones as large as 14 cups for the home.
Okay. And then, do you have recommendations on how to do dehydrated maple syrup?
I suggest you buy that. You can get it online. I think we have it in the marketplace, and if we don't, we will be getting it, I'm sure. And if you don't, if you Google it, and it will tell you where, who can find it. But the health food stores should have that product for you. Okay? Yes, lady in purple. Okay, then you either put it on top of your dehydrator and it will melt, or you could get a bowl of warm tap water, put a screw-on lid, and just submerge it in enough so it stands still, and that will get you to melt it. Yes. Lady behind you in white. Yes, you. You had your hand up? Yes. It was called Yacon syrup, Y-A-C-O-N syrup, and that should be down in the marketplace also, or you could Google it, or any of the health food stores now are carrying it. Yes? Can you do the ganache in a mixer? No, it really needs the high-speed blender, but because you want to get it to a smooth consistency. So if you don't have one of these, get it. And I don't suggest you do it in a regular blender because you definitely will burn it out. So I suggest you get a high speed. Yes? It's like a half sheet pan, so I think it's probably 9 by 16, I think is what it is. I'm not quite sure. And you don't need a ticket today to get, because it's the end. So whoever is here can have a dessert. So if you don't have a ticket, we'll still give you a dessert today. All right? So I don't think your job's done. People might want some more dessert. So get us some more. Yes? Okay, the maple syrup powder, okay, you could get from either the down in the marketplace, or you could Google it online, or your health food stores will carry it. Okay, and it might be under the name of maple syrup powder, dehydrated maple syrup. It might be called maple sugar. It might be called, just sap, maple sap. It's a sap that is, well, maple syrup technically is not a raw product. So when you have maple syrup, I think they take that and they dehydrate it, and it might be at a higher level than we're used to here at 118. So if you are a purist, then this dessert is not for you anyways, because it's full of chocolate. So you might want to do the peach cobbler in the book instead. Yes. Oh, you can, but you also have to know that it might crystallize on you, you know, if you don't get back to it, and then when you thaw it out, it might lose something in the translation. I suggest you wait, but yeah, you could also do it in the freezer. If you can't wait for this to set up. Do it overnight, throw it in, go to bed, wake up in the morning, you have breakfast. Yes, did everybody, oh, yes? That is cacao. There is no difference. Cacao and cocoa powder is really the same thing. Whether it's, you know, you could get a raw cacao powder, which is what we use here, and we have that down in the marketplace, and cocoa powder pretty much is the same. It's just how it's made and the difference of it. Yes? You know, like I say and like I've been told, if you want it to be raw, then it is. If you ask the purists in the marketplace today, some of them will say, no, agave is not raw and it's bad for you and it's just one of those simple sugars you need to avoid and, you know, whatever. It's what you want to believe, and do your homework on the product itself and see if you believe that it is or not. If not, you know, I can't tell you that because I'm not an authority on it. However, it's one that we use because we think that it's lower in the glycemic scale and, you know, it's plant-based again, and it shouldn't have any of the other evil stuff in it. So we do employ that, and, you know, from where desserts were even when we were at school, it has evolved. Just like raw food keeps evolving, you know, you're all part of that process in making it and evolving it, where the desserts aren't looking like just wet nuts anymore. Us being chefs have, you know, taken it to higher levels, and we need to evolve it, so we employ products that are best, closest to the temperature, and products that are more in line with what the teachings here at school is and for the raw environment. Myself, I'm not a raw foodist, but I do enjoy working with plant-based products, and I love to create. So I enjoy what I do, and I love what I do. I'm not one of the purists, as you can see from what I do. So ask somebody else that question. Yes?
Would there be any reason that you couldn't use date sugar?
Oh, yes, you could use date sugar. You could use Rapadura, which is dehydrated cane juice that we also use here. But because I have used maple and everything else, I chose to go maple and just keep it one, you know, along the board instead of putting a bunch of ingredients in it to make it more complicated. And also to keep the integrity of the flavor that's going on with the chocolate and the maple. So yes, absolutely. If you're looking for a dry product, anything that's not white sugar is fine. That would work in that. Any other questions? Yes? I have not made it with carrot, but I'm sure I don't see why not. It should work also. Yes. Yes, ma'am. It would help. Well, yes. You know, raw cacao powder or raw cocoa powder it has really high bitter notes in it, which are what adults really like and they prefer. However, if you don't want the raw chocolate, I like Green and Black's, which is an organic, but it's not a raw product, with less high notes. Yeah, it will tone it down a bit, but it's still bitter. It is still bitter. So you have to play with that one and see where you go with that. Okay? Any other questions? Yes? You do that one and let me know if stevia is going to work in this. I personally don't think it would because it's a liquid and I'm using, you know, more of powder / liquid. And it would require a lot of stevia to get the consistency and work with it. But I don't think so. Because stevia also has more of a, you know, a herbaceous note that I think would add to the bitterness of the chocolate. But you guys can all play with it and let me know and see where it goes. I would love to know. So, yeah. Any other questions I may answer? No? So how was your chocolate? Did you get it? Oh, good. Yeah. So you had a party in your mouth? And you're satiated and you could go through the rest of this or for the ride home, right? Okay, so we are selling them now, and Andrew took them downstairs, and they're packaged in the cafe for you to take home if you so incline, and you don't have to make it, but you have some for the ride home. And there are also the other desserts that we've done here at school by the students under my tutelage, and I think you got some last night, and then you have some down in the cafe and the grab and go and wherever else you could get them. Okay, so with all that being said, thank you, and have a great time.